In 1946, the atmosphere in Moscow was one of both celebration and tension. The Second World War had just ended, leaving the world in a delicate balance of power. Pause. The Soviet Union, under Stalin's watchful eye, was eager to maintain its influence while navigating the complexities of the new geopolitical landscape. It was in this context that a seemingly innocuous event took place at Spaso House, the residence of the American ambassador. A group of Russian children, members of the Vladimir Lenin All-Union Pioneer Organization, arrived at the embassy with a gift. Pause. They presented a carved wooden replica of the Great Seal of the United States to Ambassador Averell Harriman. Pause. This act was portrayed as a gesture of friendship, a symbol of the wartime alliance between the Soviets and Americans. The ambassador, moved by the gesture, thanked the children and had the seal hung in his study, where it would become a silent witness to history. Pause. For 7 years, this seal hung proudly on the wall, a testament to the friendship between nations. But unbeknownst to Harriman and his successors, this emblem of goodwill was not what it seemed. Pause. In 1952, during a routine security sweep, the State Department uncovered the true nature of the gift. Pause. The Great Seal was no mere decoration. It was, in fact, a sophisticated listening device, later dubbed the Thing by the U.S. intelligence community. The design of the thing was a marvel of espionage engineering. Pause. It was a passive cavity resonator, a device so subtle and advanced that it required no power source or active electronic components. Pause. Here's how it worked. The core of the device was a tiny capacitive membrane connected to a small quarter-wavelength antenna. Pause. This membrane was housed within a high-Q round silver-plated copper can. Closed at the front with a very thin and fragile conductive membrane. Pause. In the center of this cavity was a mushroom-shaped tuning post, adjustable to fine-tune the device's sensitivity. Pause. The antenna, a monopole, was led through an insulating bushing into the cavity, where it was terminated with a disc that formed one plate of a capacitor. Pause. The length of the antenna and the dimensions of the cavity were meticulously engineered to ensure that when the device was illuminated with the correct radio frequency, the rebroadcast signal would be a higher harmonic of the illuminating frequency. Pause. This meant that when the Soviets activated it with a signal from a van parked outside, the thing would resonate, capturing and transmitting conversations back to its controllers. The device's placement was equally ingenious. Pause. It was positioned under the beak of the eagle on the Great Seal. Pause. Some accounts suggest holes were drilled to allow sound to reach the membrane, while others claim the wood was thin enough or that the hollow space acted as a soundboard. Pause. This careful construction made the bug nearly impossible to detect, as it only became active when externally triggered and did not emit any signals on its own. The discovery of the Great Seal bug was a revelation, underscoring the depth of Soviet espionage capabilities. Pause. It was a time when trust was fragile, and the discovery of such a device served as a stark reminder of the covert war being waged behind diplomatic smiles. Pause. Ambassador Henry Cabot Lodge, Jr. would later display this bug at the United Nations, exposing the lengths to which the Soviets would go to gain intelligence. Pause. The simplicity and reliability of the thing, with its passive nature, gave it an operational life that could, theoretically, last indefinitely. Pause. This incident not only highlighted the sophistication of Soviet spycraft, but also prompted a re-evaluation of security protocols in American embassies worldwide. Pause. The Great Seal bug, a gift of goodwill, had become an emblem of espionage, a silent listener in the heart of diplomacy. As the Cold War unfolded, the discovery of the Great Seal bug in 1952 sent ripples through the corridors of power in Washington and beyond. Pause. The implications were profound. Not only had the Soviets managed to install such a sophisticated piece of espionage equipment in the heart of the American ambassador's residence, but they had done so under the guise of a seemingly innocuous gift from children. Pause. This event marked a pivotal moment in the clandestine struggle between the two superpowers. The revelation of the thing was not just a technical embarrassment, but also a diplomatic one. Pause. The U.S. ambassador at the time, George F. Kennan, had succeeded Harriman, and now, looking back, realized that sensitive discussions, policy decisions, and perhaps even personal conversations had been compromised. Pause. The bug had been there, silent but listening, as the world moved from the aftermath of World War II into the Cold War era. The State Department's counterintelligence team, upon discovering the bug, faced a complex task. Pause. They had to understand not only how the device worked, but also how to prevent such breaches in the future. Pause. The thing, with its passive nature, was a new type of challenge. It did not broadcast constantly, making it invisible to traditional bug detection methods. Pause. It required an external signal to illuminate it, activating its ability to transmit, which meant that the Soviets could control when and how often they listened in. The design of the thing was, in its simplicity, a masterstroke of espionage engineering. Pause. Leon Theremin, the Soviet inventor behind this device, had applied principles of physics in a way that was both elegant and devious. Pause. The capacitive membrane, the antenna, and the cavity were all precisely engineered to work together in a symphony of silence. Pause. The device was so light, so simple, that it could be mistaken for an innocuous component of the seal itself. The placement of the bug was a stroke of genius as well. Pause. Hidden under the beak of the eagle, it was both symbolic and strategic. Pause. The eagle, a symbol of American power, was now harboring a device that undermined that very power. Pause. Whether the wood was drilled or the natural hollows of the carving allowed for the sound to reach the membrane, the effect was the same. The seal had become a conduit for secrets. The discovery of the thing led to a re-evaluation of security measures at American embassies worldwide. Pause. It underscored the need for advanced bug detection technology, leading to the development of devices that could detect passive bugs. Pause. The incident also highlighted the importance of human intelligence and the necessity of vigilance at all times. Pause. Every gift, every seemingly innocuous gesture, had to be scrutinized. The Great Seal bug incident was brought to the public eye in a dramatic fashion. Pause. Ambassador Henry Cabot Lodge, Jr. displayed the bug at the United Nations, laying bare the Soviets' espionage tactics to the world. Pause. This act was both a warning to allies and a signal to adversaries that the U.S. was aware and would not tolerate such subterfuge. Pause. It was a moment of Cold War brinkmanship, where espionage was not just a tool but a weapon in the battle for ideological supremacy. The aftermath of the discovery was not just about the immediate implications, but also about the long-term effects on international relations. Pause. It led to an escalation in the arms race of espionage, with both sides investing heavily in counterintelligence, signals intelligence, and the development of even more sophisticated listening devices. Pause. The trust between nations was further eroded as every embassy, every meeting, became a potential battleground for information. The Great Seal bug, in its silent watchfulness, had become an emblem of the Cold War's shadow war. Pause. Its legacy was one of caution, innovation and security, and a reminder of the unseen battles that raged behind the scenes of diplomacy. Pause. For 7 years it had listened, and in its discovery it spoke volumes about the era in which it operated. The discovery of the Great Seal bug not only exposed the Soviets' clandestine activities, but also ignited a series of countermeasures and a re-evaluation of security practices within the American intelligence community. Pause. The revelation that the Soviets had managed to listen in on the highest levels of American diplomacy for 7 years was a wake-up call that reverberated through the halls of power. In the wake of this espionage, the U.S. intelligence agencies, particularly the National Security Agency, NSA, were tasked with understanding the technology behind the thing. Pause. They sought to develop counter-technologies to detect and neutralize such passive listening devices. Pause. This led to advancements in technical surveillance countermeasures. TSCM, a field dedicated to the detection, identification, and neutralization of technical surveillance devices. One of the immediate actions was the implementation of routine and rigorous sweeps of diplomatic premises. Pause. Special equipment was developed to detect the unique signatures of passive bugs, like the Thing, which did not emit signals unless illuminated. Pause. These sweeps involved not just electronic detection, but also physical inspections, looking for anything out of the ordinary, no matter how seemingly innocuous. The design of the Thing itself was dissected by experts. Pause. Its simplicity was its strength, and the absence of an internal power source or active components made it a formidable challenge to detect. Pause. The capacitive membrane, the tuning post with its grooves for airflow, and the high-Q copper cavity were all examined in detail. Pause. The antenna, with its disc-shaped end, and the precise engineering to create a higher harmonic rebroadcast signal, were marvels of espionage technology. The strategic placement of the bug was another lesson in the art of covert operations. Pause. Placing it under the eagle's beak was not just a matter of symbolism but also of acoustics. Pause. The hollowed space or the thin wood allowed for the concentration of sound onto the microphone. Pause. This careful consideration of the environment in which the bug would operate showcased the Soviets' understanding of the physical space where espionage was to take place. The incident also led to a psychological shift within the intelligence community. Pause. There was a new awareness of the potential for betrayal from within, as well as from seemingly friendly gestures from without. Pause. This paranoia was not unfounded. The Cold War was a time when espionage was a game of cat and mouse, where each side sought to outmaneuver the other through deceit and subterfuge. The Great Seal bug became a case study in espionage education. Pause. It was taught in intelligence schools and used as an example of how covert operations could be conducted with the highest levels of sophistication. Pause. The story of the Thing was not just about the bug itself, but about the broader implications of trust, security, and the ongoing arms race in intelligence gathering. The incident also had diplomatic repercussions. Pause. When Ambassador Henry Cabot Lodge Jr. displayed the bug at the United Nations, it was a public acknowledgement of Soviet espionage. Pause. This act was a strategic move to signal to allies and adversaries alike that the U.S. was aware and vigilant. Pause. It was an attempt to regain the upper hand in the information warfare that characterized the Cold War. The aftermath of the Great Seal bug's discovery prompted a reassessment of how gifts were received and handled at embassies. Pause. Every item entering diplomatic premises was now subject to scrutiny, with a keen eye for hidden compartments or unusual features. Pause. The era of assuming goodwill was over. Now, even a symbol of friendship could be a tool of espionage. In the long run, the incident with the Great Seal bug contributed to the development of more sophisticated counterintelligence techniques. Pause. It led to innovations in both the detection and prevention of passive listening devices. Pause. The intelligence community became more adept at identifying and countering the latest espionage technologies, ensuring that such a breach would not go unnoticed for 7 years again. The Great Seal bug, in its silent watchfulness, had not only listened to secrets, but had also taught the world about the unseen battles of the Cold War. Pause. Its legacy was one of caution, innovation, and a reminder of the constant vigilance required in the shadow war of intelligence. Pause. It was a story of espionage that transcended the device itself, becoming a symbol of the era's complexities and the ever-present threat of betrayal.